All right, winter meetings. Day one is in the books in sunny Orlando. I'm not there. I wish I should have put the background. Next year, I am definitely going. Somebody yesterday said to me, "You're doing this podcast, Red Sox Now, which is presented by FanArch, and we would love for you to subscribe. First timers, thank you. Leave your comments, subscribe to the channel." And they said, "You should be there." And you know what? I will. I don't know where it is. I've been many times. If it's in Vegas, I will be there. But yes, next year would be awesome. I could do Red Sox live, Red Sox Now live from one of the hotels. That'd be pretty cool. So we'll do that. Thank to all of you for following along. You can follow me at the Radio Mike on X and on TikTok as well as we get. This week we're gonna have we have the draft lottery coming up, Rule 5, and of course. We hope lots of moves. You just never know with all of this stuff. This could drag out with the Boris clients. There could be a scenario where I know everyone is geeked up for this week, like myself, that we want to have moves, but there is that other side with Boris that we might not. So Steven Matz signs with the Rays. How about that? He gets a 2-year deal. And, I've got some questions about the bullpen. Yeah, I totally get it. And I just think priority is not high for anybody. It's really been quiet everywhere, but they'll fix that. And they'll bring in some guys, and they might have some people internally. So I did want to touch first. Cora on TV, I thought was interesting on MLB Network. Now, he was sitting with Harold Reynolds. I liked Harold Reynolds poked him a little bit about Crochet, which I liked, but I remember a lot of things. At the end of the season press conference, Cora, he said these things in different ways. He said his defense wasn't as bad as maybe people thought. But then yesterday he said that isn't our defense was so-so, and it cost us. He said we lost games 2 and 3 because of our defense. I think people forget they made some really bad plays. The Duran ball that was ruled a hit should have been caught. We know, but there were other plays on that in those 2 games that he says was a big reason that we, and he's right. Like when you get into, it doesn't matter what round of the playoffs, you have to play defense at a high level. But he said that. Talked about that as a priority. So it's interesting to hear that. Less swing and miss. None of that really correlates to some of the guys they bring in. I know Ketel Marte is not horrible at second base. Pete Alonso's not great at first base. But that doesn't mean there's other areas that they're looking at to get better. I think that they feel good about their outfield, but it's definitely infield defense, you would think. And Narvaez, I thought really good moments and rookie moments. What do we expect? Hard for me to criticize a guy like that who is playing his first year in the big leagues, and I thought was pretty good. But there were moments where he'll get better at that. Jason Varitek told me this. I remember asking him. I have the interview on my personal YouTube. You can find it, and I think it's in this interview. About being traded. And he said, "Yeah. I got traded because I wasn't good." And he goes, "I couldn't catch. That Seattle had every right. I was a mess." He told me that. I was a mess. Gary Tuck worked on him. He said it took me a long time to be good defensively. And I think that Narvaez showed a lot. So it's interesting because I think we all agree on that stuff. Cora said defense, less swing and miss. He's like, we have to put – yeah. For some positions, it's okay. For some, and I don't mean to pick on Duran, but I think 166 in strikeouts for a guy like that is too much because he is so valuable that he can shorten up and get on base. Duran is like Ellsbury. He could hit a ball on the left side hard to the shortstop and be safe. He's that fast. And Rafaela and tons of others. But that's why I have made that stance about Bregman, because his defense is really good. And I'm not ready to hitch my wagon to playing Meyer every day at third base when he has been hurt. And I get it, that at some point maybe he won't be, and that you have to give guys chances. Yes, but if you decide not to bring Bregman back, a true third baseman, because I don't think Meyer's a true third baseman. He can play there a lot. You have better figure out a backup because you have no other options. And I don't like a position like that of priority to not have a lot of options because again, if Meyer gets hurt and you have no one to play third, you're going to absolutely get taken to the shed on a trade. So those are the things you got to think about. I will shorten Breslow's quotes. Sometimes he does talk in long paragraphs. His stance on power was simple. I can paraphrase it easily. An impact bat, a power bat like Pete Alonso, and this is what he's talking about. That's a priority. Even Marte. Marte's a power guy. They help others in the lineup. The impact of power. When you have, and this is something that you have to think about with a guy like Roman Anthony. You have to protect Roman. I think he is a third hitter. Right? I think at the end of the day, if they keep Duran, they want him to be able to lead off because of the speed. I think that makes the most sense. So say you went Duran, Bregman, or whoever, Bregman, Marte, Anthony. You've got to have someone behind your future like that. Roman Anthony probably doesn't need protection like some others because, like Ortiz needed Manny. He's admitted that. That was all great hitters do. But Roman is better with laying off pitches. Like he's going to take walks. But that's the thing. You don't have someone like Marte or Alonso or Bregman behind him. It hurts him. So you have to think about that. It's not just what the power bat of Alonso or who else, someone we might not be thinking about, does themselves. It's the impact they have. It's the game planning that teams have to do. It's a game wrecker, intimidation. That's what you need in the middle of the order. Obviously the production, but you want that oh crap moment when it's Anthony, power guy, and say Abreu, So this will be interesting. And what's interesting is that there's been a lot of moves made where we don't know what's coming. And now Breslow has been pretty open about this. And we'll see how that, if it's negotiating as well. They're going to meet with Alonso today. He is driving up. He lives in Florida. He is driving to talk to the Red Sox. Bo Bichette recently did a Zoom. Sources told Channel 7 here in Boston. Bichette came away impressed with the Red Sox. I'm told the Red Sox have shown to be serious about the free agent. That's Ari Alexander, who was a Channel 7 Morrow winner and 7-time Emmy winner. Nice job, Ari, on that scoop. So we got some other guys in the mix, right? I think it's safe to say Toronto doesn't want Bichette back. He's going to be the longest in terms of commitment, right? Youngest, he's probably going to cost you 6 or 7 years. Where does he play? Not shortstop. Not a great defender. Can he play third? I don't know. If they sign him to play third, then they think he can play third. Or he plays second and you keep Meyer at third. And you get Alonso for 3 years. Or Bregman. Cora also said with Casas, hey, he hit fourth last year. That doesn't mean they have to say certain things, but it sounds like that's still a player that they believe in. And he's in Fort Myers working out. Not sure his timetable yet, if he would even be ready on opening day. So it's interesting with Bichette possibly in the mix. But here's the thing that's going to happen. It's going to sting. We all know that if they end up with a trade with somebody. I just don't see them signing Alonso and Bregman. I don't see two Boris clients signing here. I just don't. And I don't personally want Alonso for 6 years. I just don't think that's a right commitment. It's interesting how many people are okay with position players for that, which over pitchers. But, I mean, I could, the wearing down it can happen. It's different for everyone. It's not fair. And I've said this before. It's not fair to put everyone in the same mix. It's just that 6 or 7 years for him, I wouldn't do personally. But I mean, it doesn't matter what I think. And, he is durable and he could be your DH. And that's what happens if you want to get somebody. I just know with Boris, they're probably going to be overpays. As much as I love Bregman, I mean, they did overpay for him last year. They gave him a 3-year, $40 million each year, and he opted out still. That's which is crazy. Think about that. It's never matters with these guys. There's not going to be loyalty. $40 million. That's why I didn't think Bregman was going to opt out. I was like, is he going to get that in the open market? Well, they must think he will, but I don't see both signing here. So we'll see. For me, I do like Alonso, but I do like the other positions of priority more. Third, second are harder to fill than first base or outfield at times. You can find first baseman. Not saying that you just pick anyone off the street. But I still want someone with considerable power, and he has it. He has it. If it was Alonso and Marte, I'd I'd be okay with. And I still believe, and I know that if they make that move, that there'll be a sting. And everyone has asked me again, why would the Diamondbacks do this? And it's because that's the way they do business. That's why some of you should be grateful that you have this organization the way they run things. They are willing to get rid of a guy that is very cost efficient because these teams have to constantly retool because they won't spend money. And that's still, Mike Hazen is not, and I know Mike because he was here. He's really good at speaking to the media. He's fantastic. He said yesterday, we're getting a ton of calls for Marte. And that could be the same teams calling over and over. We don't know that. You can't sit here and you can't do false things and say, yeah, I got 20 teams and here are the names. But still, a part of me believes they want out of that contract. It's hard for people here to fathom that. But they want big league pitching. So you have it. And just think about this. And we're going to get to some comments right now. There's not a lot of other big market teams involved in some of these deals. I don't know what's going on with the Mets or the Phillies or the Padres. I don't know. I don't know what Preller is talking about, making more impact trades. Like, I don't know what. I like San Diego. I don't like when I feel like there's fans running a team. No offense to anybody. I'm a fan too. I want someone running a team that makes me uncomfortable. There are things the Red Sox do that I'm uncomfortable with, I don't like, but they're bold on. I want that. I don't know what A.J. Preller's plan is. He's just trading and trading and trading. Like, I don't know what is their direction? They signed Bogaerts to this long deal. He plays 1 year at short. They move him off short. They get Soto for they could have kept James Wood, and then they get rid of Soto, and now they're talking about. They're all over the place. They're doing too much stuff. And I don't know, they don't seem to have any organizational structure. Yes, they're spending money, but they've got tons of holes. They went into the trade deadline last year with no closer, needing more relievers. They don't have great starting pitching. All these big market teams, guys. I mean, why wouldn't Schwarber just stay with the Phillies? Why aren't they keeping him? Why isn't Toronto keeping Bichette? It's weird what's going on. I think it's a commitment, first of all, and they're just going other directions. But Mets and Phillies seem to be, Mets and Padres seem to be all over the place. And it shows that, Steve Cohen, who is a glorified fan, who just makes a lot of irrational baseball moves based on just a lot of it, and I've talked to a lot of Mets people, he wants to win bidding wars with the Yankees. I don't want an owner like that. I want an owner that wants to sign people because he thinks it's the right thing to do. But it's not going to matter how much money he spends. Even Alonso opted out. And they have all kinds of issues with their clubhouse. But it's really weird how silent, some of those clubs have been. Dombrowski won't give up Andrew Painter. I mean, he could probably get Ketel Marte or someone, but he will not give him up. So it's quiet on some of the big market ends, which means nothing. That can all flip. So let's get to your comments before we head out. Michael Parsons, I think your two could be Gray, Oviedo, Bayo, or Early based on progress this spring. Yeah. We'll see. I mean, it's pretty solid rotation. Let's work on bats and defense. If any addition pitching offer becomes available, we could make that deal if we want to spend the money. I would also love to see them get Bregman, Marte, and Alonso, but 2 of the 3 is a must. Yeah, and you can't get all 3. I mean, it's just not going to happen. I just don't see that happening. But yeah, great points. I caution people to think that everything on social media is what's really going on. There still could, there's players that I'm sure we haven't even talked about that they're talking to, which is good. They can leverage interest in Boris's clients off someone else and say, hey, listen, we're fine. We're fine, Scott. And they'll play hardball. And also, Breslow played. He's been through all this stuff. So I'm the good thing with him as an executive, he's not going to take anything personal from agents because he has one. And he had one when he plays. He probably still has one now. So he gets it. And it'd be hard to fool. Philip Good, 7604, reducing errors and strikeouts will probably get the Sox 5 to 10 more victories. Stay away from the Boris clients. Yes. It's fine. The offseason is all about buying that Rolex watch, BMW, Rolls Royce. Doesn't mean it's always going to be comfortable to drive, right? You could still like your Honda Civic. Playing the game the right way still matters. And if you have all these shiny toys, say you have Alonso and Bichette, and they can't make contact or play defense, you're going to be in the same spot. You might score a few more runs, but it just can't continue. That's been my big criticism of them for a while, and they're going to address that. They said, playing the game the right way, and it's not just here. I told you, a lot of you, this from watching baseball every day. It's a pandemic throughout baseball that has got to get fixed because it looks awful. We had games last year. AAA baseball is a high level of baseball, and guys running the bases thinking there's not knowing how many outs there are. We had a sinking line drive into right center last year where a guy was holding up for some reason and was out at second. Like that, stuff like that. Throwing to the wrong bases. That's stuff that even at A ball can happen, and it is. But yes, I agree with you. You can't give teams extra outs. Strikeouts are all not built the same. They're going to happen. I'm okay with them at times because it's going to happen. But situationally is where it's gotten really bad. When there's 2 on and nobody out, and your approach is to hit the ball as far as you can and not try to move runners over, you lose games that way. And I get tons of people telling me that doesn't matter. Toronto struck out the 3rd fewest in baseball. And the Astros, all those years they won, they were number 1 in fewest strikeouts. They had 2 guys that struck out over 100 times last year. So, yeah, I totally agree. This is a good comment here. Joseph Pretorius 8607. Miss me on Bassett, too old and not good enough to push the needle from last year. I'd pay Giolito at that point and bring him back. Yeah, no, I get it. But see, that's a signing that will win somebody a championship. You're crazy. Okay, I'll take it. Brewers are probably going to give him 2 years. If I sat here last offseason and said the Red Sox have Gossman, Bassett, Barrios, Eric Lauer, Bowden Francis, what would you be saying back to me? Horrible rotation, right? Scherzer got hurt. They traded for Bieber. They had Easton Lucas. I mean, these aren't knockout names. Chris Bassett. Now, I'm with you. I'm fine with him. He's going to be a $25 to $28 million a year pitcher. He has gone 30 starts in 4 straight years. His numbers are really good. I get how old he is. I'm not talking about 10 years. That's still a valuable guy in your rotation. If you're looking for 3, 4, or 5, and maybe in the Brewers he's higher, but that's a good arm. He made $22 million last year. He's probably going to get the same, if not more. He's a veteran. He can pitch. He's durable. Yes, it's not I get not move the needle, but who cares about that? I want to win games. I don't want things just to move the needle. I don't want them to give up 6 guys and give $500 million to school just to move the needle, and it hurts your baseball. If it makes sense to do it, yes. But Toronto didn't move the needle last year, right? I mean, you look at a lot of they get to the World Series. Yariel Rodriguez, Brendan Little, Layson Fluharty, Braden Fisher. That's their bullpen. Any of you know any of these guys? Probably not. Tommy Nance, sub-2 ERA in 30 games coming up. Of course, we know the kid. But you look at a lot of their guys, I mean, none of them moved the needle. And they got to the World Series. So it's not, it's being smart too. But I totally get that point. Like, I don't think needing another Chris Bassett. But don't discard someone like that, like he's just someone off the street. Because he's still, at the end of the day, a very solid arm. But I think you're right. I think the Red Sox, have plenty of that. And we'll see. Today could be the day, or as we're recording this right now, we could have a move as soon as we hop off. That seems to happen. Please subscribe to my personal channel. You'll see I'll comment. I have TweetDeck open as I do this show, and I have a Red Sox little search bar while I do the show this week. So in case we have any late-breaking things, I can bring it to you. So hit the subscribe on your way out. Have yourself a great Tuesday. You have to. Make sure to follow me. Again, we'll bring it up because we can. On TikTok, of course, on X at the Radio Mike. Have a great day. Winter meetings, day 2. I'll recap it on my personal later. And as always, go Sox.